Hello everyone out there and welcome on a webinar on the Research Master in Migration, Ethnic Relations, Multiculturalism. That's a mouthful, so we briefly just call it MERM here at Utrecht University. Before we start, I'd like to introduce our team for today. My name is Vanessa Fleischman and I'm the coordinator of the MERM program. I teach a lot of courses in the program and I also went through it as a student and I graduated a good while ago in 2007. With me here in the studio today is Lena Arnold. She's one of the second-year students in the current program. And then behind the screen is Nora Stotz. She's our MERM tutor, and she's also a graduate from the 2017 cohort. So with the three of us, we try to talk you through the program. I'll start the webinar with a brief presentation of the essential characteristics of the MERM program, covering the structure and the content of the courses, and also the research group behind it. Then I will talk with Lena a bit about her experience as a student in the MERM program, and we'll also go into her experience as an international student coming from Germany to study here in Utrecht. After the presentation, there will be a Q&A, so you have the opportunity to ask questions to us, and then we can address here from the studio. But in the meanwhile, while we are talking, you can also ask your questions in our live chat, and then Nora and her team will do our best to answer them right away. You can also use the live chat if you have any kind of technical problems, if your sound doesn't work or something else is wrong, please let us know by typing in the chat box below so we can try to fix this. So I think we're all ready, and let's get started. So first, let me say a few words about the program. There are three broad topics that we cover and they follow each other up in the curriculum. The first is the question of international migration, so just why do people actually move from one country to another? Whether they move, why do they move to those places? How is the whole thing governed? How do people respond to migration policies and so on? So the very first course in this very first semester of the program addresses those questions. Then we cover the topic of immigrant integration. So we ask what happens to immigrants once they're in their new society? How are they doing on the labor market? Who learns the language and at what rate? How do they engaging in contacts with members of the majority population, and how also they are adapting psychologically. Once we've had these two questions that are primarily asked from the migrant perspective, we look at the host society perspective. Because if you're not an immigrant yourself and you don't know an immigrant personally in your friendship networks or in your family, it's a phenomenon that you will encounter in daily life. So international migration is high on the political agenda for a lot of countries, and it's shaping the course of lots of national elections or referenda, playing a role in the Brexit referendum, for instance. So these attitudes that people hold on immigration and diversity, they're important for policy outcomes and societal debate, but they also feed back into the process of immigrant integration and the settlement decisions that prospective migrants take. So by covering these three broad topics, we do come full circle, basically, and we try to give you a comprehensive overview of the field of migration, ethnic relations, and multiculturalism. One more thing that makes us both comprehensive and unique is that we take an interdisciplinary perspective on these topics. We are firmly rooted within the social sciences, but we're not wedded to a particular discipline within the social sciences. In the teaching and in the reading materials for the courses, you will encounter a lot of material from sociology and social psychology. These are really the main disciplines, but you will also find other inputs, for instance, from political sciences, anthropology, geography, or economics. So we will not train you in a specific social science discipline, but we will offer you the skill of looking at a particular phenomena from multiple disciplinary perspective and integrate them. And that will also make you very flexible in your future career. Now, another important thing that you should understand about the research program is that we're a research master. And that means that getting hands-on experience with social scientific research plays a very large part in a program. Concretely, what that means is that in the first year, you will have 2 courses on methods and statistics. And in these courses, we do not just passively teach you about the methods and statistics, but you will get a lot of hands-on practical skills working with statistical softwares, and you will integrate your method skills with the theoretical knowledge in the field of migration studies by working on research papers. In the end, what that will lead up to is that you write your thesis in the form of a research article that can be submitted for publication in a peer-reviewed journal. And by now, about 40% of all MERM theses have been published in a broad range of journals. So there's quite a good chance that if you graduate from the MERM program, you have already taken a first step towards establishing yourself in the international research community in migration, ethnic relations, and multiculturalism. By the way, the article that you see now on the screen is one of the most recently published MERM theses from one of the students of Nora's cohort, the 2017 cohort. Ina, perhaps you want to say what your thesis is about and where you want to take it.
Yeah, thanks. So in my master thesis, I'm analyzing if immigrants' religion or their ethnic background is more important for their social integration in the Netherlands. And for that, I'm using a Dutch data set where we have different religious and also different ethnic groups. And I'm going to do my data analysis with it. And yeah, so the goal is to also get this paper then published in the end in a peer-reviewed journal.
Yeah, we're aiming for a journal of ethnic and migration studies,
yeah,
right? Yeah, that's one of the journals that a lot of our students are aiming for, and we have quite some publications, and sometimes we use them in our teaching as well. It's always nice to have teaching and say, well, this was a MERM thesis from that year. Oh, thanks a lot. The emphasis on the advanced research skills that we teach you, and in addition to the content knowledge, is the reason why a program takes 2 years to complete. We start only once a year in September, and we have cohorts of students of approximately 20 students. So we'll always go through the program with a small group of peers, and you do spend a lot of time with them in classes because it's a very intensive program, but I think also outside of the class, right?
Yeah, indeed, it's really intense, and I also found it to be like a really valuable contact. Going through the master program with the commitment and also the support from the others has been a really good experience for me so far in the master.
Thanks for sharing, and it's something that we've been hearing from most of the cohorts so far. That's really the group experience that people value. Our program is also fully English taught and has been so from the start. And our students have come really from a long list of countries from everywhere between Mexico and China. So from wherever in the world you are following us today, please know that we really do our best to build a classroom that is as diverse and international as possible. Now, if you're following us from afar, why should you come all the way to Utrecht to study MERM? A very good reason to do so is the research group that is behind this master's program, and that is called the European Research Center on Migration and Ethnic Relations, ERCOMER, also a mouthful. Please do check our website, ercomer.eu, which you can also see on the screen right now. It contains all the information about the master's program, but also about the research that is being conducted and the people working at ERCOMER. For instance, if you click on the site on Meet Our Staff and Members, you will see a list of all the ERCOMER researchers and their positions. And then you can click on the names to go to their profile pages. What you will see there is the projects they're working on, their past publications, and also the MERM courses that they're involved in. And that's quite relevant information because every single course in the program, without exception, is being taught by researchers. And because we have such small classes, what that means is that throughout this 2-year period, you'll develop very close connections with the ERCOMER researchers who are the MERM teachers. So we'll actually, in that way, become part of our community.
Yeah, and I did find that the teachers are really approachable and that you're also really valued and treated as a student with interesting ideas. So that was really a plus for me in studying MERM so far.
Okay. The other 2 reasons that make our program stand out from comparable programs in Europe and worldwide. So on the one hand, this combination of an interdisciplinary focus and our international orientation, and then particularly this combination of content knowledge and research methods. And I think it's easiest if I just walk you through the structure of the program to explain you how we integrate the two, the content knowledge and the methods in our teaching. Here you can see what the program looks like in the first year. We have 2 semesters of 14 weeks of teaching, and there's a class-free week in between. In both of these semesters, you will first follow 3 courses during 10 weeks. Two of them will be devoted to content knowledge. In the first semester, these are the courses on international migration and the course on identity and cultural diversity. In the second semester of the first year, you will have a course on acculturation and one on immigrant integration. In addition to these content courses, you will have one course on methods and statistics. The content courses usually come with one class meeting a week, and the methods and statistics courses have 2 class meetings, and they combine both lecture type of meetings with computer labs, where you get hands-on experience with practicing with using several statistical softwares. Now, after the first 10 weeks, when the first 3 courses are concluded, you will write an entire research paper in a course that we call a research practicum. So that's a course that only lasts for 4 weeks, and within those 4 weeks, what you will do, you write the research paper that includes the theoretical introduction, analyzing data, writing up the results, and a discussion. In the first semester, when you do that for the first time, you will do it in a pair of 2 students. And in the second semester, after the first year, you will do that for the first time individually. This is what the research practicums are about.
Yeah, I can personally say that I really value the 2 research practicums because during the first 10 weeks, you receive a lot of input, and sometimes you don't really notice how much you're actually learning in these 10 weeks. And in the research practical, it really helped me to become aware of my skills, and also helped me to understand the methods and the statistics that I learned in the first 10 weeks a bit better, because sometimes you find them a bit challenging, and then once you really apply them, you see what you can use them for, and that they're quite not that as tough as you might think.
Yeah. So after the first year, you will already have written 2 research papers. And then the good thing about the program, well, we have a very long summer break, so we don't teach in the month of June, July, and August. A lot of the students use that time to do an internship, to follow a summer school, and you could also work on your thesis in that period. In the second year, we keep the same structure, and we have 2 semesters, but there's only one more content course on ethnic prejudice, racism, and nationalism that takes place in the first semester. That content course has recently been integrated with the 3rd research practicum, and there the emphasis is on slightly different skills. We now teach you to collect your own data, including applying for ethics approval and constructing your own questionnaire. So it's a bit different from the first 2 research practicum, but again, you will end up with your own research paper at the end of this course. In addition to this coursework, there's a lot of emphasis on writing your thesis, and there are 2 research seminars to help you with that in each semester. In these seminars, there's weekly meetings where you report on the progress of your own thesis. You receive feedback on your thesis and on your progress from teachers and from peers, and you also provide peer feedback on the thesis project of your fellow students. So you will also be on top of what the other people are working on, what the topics are like, and their struggles from which you can learn for your own thesis. Of course, you also have individual meetings with your supervisors in that period. What you can also see in the list for the first semester is the elective course. That part of the program is really meant for students to design their own curriculum. So for the value of 7.5 credits, what you can do is design your own coursework, and you're really free in choosing what you want to do for that amount of credits. A lot of students choose to do an internship, and that could be both a research internship or something in a more applied field, and it could be in the Netherlands or abroad. You can also enroll in a summer school or in a course of another master's program, or do a combination of those things. So a lot of students use that long summer break to work on the electives, so that in the end, not a lot of people actually do it in the first semester of the second year, but we had to put it somewhere in the program, so that's why it's here. Lena, what did you do for your elective course?
Yeah, I went to Cyprus for my elective course, and I did a research internship at the University of Cyprus. And I worked with PhD students and a professor together on a paper and then a project about the development of prejudice of Greek and Turkish Cypriot school children towards each other. So that was really interesting for me.
And a nice place on top. And what did other students in your cohort do?
I know from others that one attended a summer school about refugees in Lesbos. Another student also went to Australia actually for her research internship, also at the university then. I know from others that they also interned at the Air Commune with professors from Utrecht University, and I also know that some took an additional course at Utrecht University, and I think one in Amsterdam as well.
So lots of opportunities, and it's really up to you how you want to design that, and then you consult with the coordinator about how to shape that part of the program. I've been talking a lot about the content and structure of the program, and I hope that this clarifies a few things. But I'm sure you can get an even better impression of what it's like to actually study NERM from one of the students. I'm really glad that Lena took the time for this webinar today, and I just learned that she actually had also a trip to Lisbon for us, so I'm really grateful for that. So Lena, perhaps you can tell us why you chose for NERM in the first place?
Yeah, so I chose NERM because I was looking for a long and also really well-established master program in migration studies, which was fully taught in English. And during my bachelor, I already spent Erasmus semester at Amsterdam University, and there I really got to value the Dutch university system. Yeah, I was also really excited about the possibility to get insights from different research disciplines in this master program.
And what was it like to adjust to living in the Netherlands?
Yes, I have to say at first I did find it a bit difficult. Like when I came here, I did feel a bit strange to leave my old place and my friends and Germany as my home country. But with a really close connection to the other students, it was really easy to find new contacts really fast. And I also perceive the Dutch people as really friendly and really welcoming. And I also speak English really well, so this made things for me way easier at the beginning because I didn't and also don't perfectly speak Dutch yet.
You know. So what was it like to start studying NERM? Was it difficult to adjust? Or?
It was a bit different for me at the beginning NERM because you have to say I was more used to a rather open, also unstructured bachelor program in Germany. So yeah, it was a bit unusual for me to constantly have to hand in assignments during the semester, and therefore I think I perceived the semester as the first one as especially intense. But I think once you through the first one, I really adjusted well over the time.
What did you like about the program, and which things were more harder than you expected?
So I really like living in the Netherlands, especially in Utrecht as city. I think it is a really cozy atmosphere, and I like that I'm able to go everywhere by bike, basically. About NERM, I really like that I'm in close contact with the other students. So you can go for coffee break, or you can also hang out together in the evening. And of course, there are also harder times. Yeah, the workload sometimes is quite tough at the beginning, and sometimes you also might have a bit of a harder day, but things got really better over time, and it will definitely help you that others are also experiencing the same as you are. So.
You're talking about the workload, I just realized that I didn't put on the slides with all the nice pictures of your cohort.
Yeah, so we have 2 nice pictures where we enjoy hanging out with the cohort, and then in the other 2 you can also see that sometimes it's a bit challenging, but it's worth it.
And we made a map with all the countries from the current cohort of the students, and only later realized we should have put Italy as well, because one of the students is Italian and German at the same time. But we're too late to change the PowerPoint. Perhaps you can describe to the people watching what the typical week of a NERM student looks like.
Yes, sure. So in the beginning, you have 3 days a week of classes, and the other time you will be mostly studying either at the library or from home, whatever you prefer. And in the classes, there's a lot of room for discussions and presentations that you will have to give. You also really have to prepare well for the classes, read the literature, send a lot of critical questions for the texts you have to read. And in the second year, the class are twice a week, and then they are more focused on the master thesis, which I'm enjoying so far.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any tips for prospective students, or something that I missed and that they absolutely need to know?
Yeah, I would say that I personally learned a lot in the discussions we had in the classes. So I would advise you to really bring yourself to engage in the discussions. I also think it can be really helpful to find a hobby or something else as a compensation to your studies, because as I said, sometimes it can be quite intense, and I found it really helpful to get your head clear from time to time to stay focused and also motivated. Yeah, another tip is, I would say, spend a lot of time with your cohort, because it's really been a good experience for me. Find something nice to do in summer, either research internship, but also try to get a bit of a holiday or vacation. And also importantly, I would say really ask for help if you're struggling with something in the master program, because I found everyone to be really approachable if you do say you struggle with something.
Yeah. That's good to hear, and that's actually the function of the tutor who is now in the live chat, so she can fill you in on all the details of what happens when you struggle and how we try to address this. Well, thanks a lot, Lina. Before we move to the Q&A, I want to just quickly give you an impression of what you can do when you graduate from MERM. Now, since we train you to become researchers, starting a PhD is the most obvious next step. And almost half of our students immediately transition to a PhD program, not only in the Netherlands, but really around the globe. Since the MERM program has been around for a good while, more than 15 years now, we've built a very good reputation with researchers in the field of migration and ethnic relations research. And our graduates are sought after as beginning researchers. But of course, becoming a PhD is not the only option, and we know that not all of our students want to become academic researchers. So many of our graduates also apply their research and academic skills in other organizations, for instance, municipalities or national governments or in international NGOs. So in the last 2 years, we've seen graduates starting traineeships, for instance, at the Municipality of Amsterdam or the Dutch national government, but also working as researchers for local health services or at a major international consulting corporation. We do also maintain a LinkedIn page for our students and alumni. So when you enroll in the MERM program, you can also easily see where our alumni have landed, and you can reach out to them and learn from their experience. And then we organize a yearly career event where you can meet and hear from the experience of the MERM alumni. Now, the last thing I want to explain before we move to the Q&A are our admission criteria and our procedure. The most important criterion really is your motivation. So on the one hand, your passion for the topics of migration, ethnic relations, and multiculturalism, and on the other hand, a keen interest in social scientific research and developing into a researcher. In addition, we're looking for students with a background in the social sciences who bring relevant theory knowledge, but also relevant knowledge of social science methodology. If you have completed or you're in the process of completing a bachelor in the social sciences, you're very likely to qualify, but you could also enter the program with a more interdisciplinary background, for instance, with liberal arts and sciences and this type of program, if you follow some relevant courses on migration and diversity, and if you have some training in methods and statistics. If you do not currently meet all of the requirements, but many of them, you can also put in an application and you might be admitted under some conditions. For instance, that you follow some additional courses or that you attend a summer school in multivariate statistics that we offer here at Utrecht University. Because our program is fully taught in English, it's important that you have a good command of that language. And depending on where you're living and studying right now, you might have to document that by taking a language test. And then we select on grades to keep our classes small. So if you have a GPA of 3.4 or higher, and you fulfill all the other criteria, you will be admitted to the program. If your GPA is somewhat lower, we can still consider your application if you can compensate your lower grades. For instance, if you have relevant work experience as a research assistant or other things that stand out on your CV and allow some compensation.
I was actually wondering how many people are admitted to the program and how many apply.
It varies every year, and we're dealing with small numbers. We receive upwards of 50 applications each year, and we strive for cohorts of about 20 students. But we don't really have a cap, so there's not really a maximum number of students that we can admit. And we evaluate every application based on the individual fit of the student to the program and the entry requirements. So we don't treat the applications on a first come, first served basis, and the number of applications that we have already received and reviewed doesn't have an influence on how we will judge your own application. So that is important to know. You should also know that we often admit more students than that eventually end up in the program, because some students that we admit, they might not attend the program for various reasons. An important thing to know is that we look at your application individually, and in the end, you will enter the program in a cohort of, in a small cohort of highly qualified and motivated students. Now, we have recently introduced the system of a rolling admission. So that means you can apply throughout the whole academic year at any point in time, and then you will be notified within a maximum of 20 office days on whether or not you can be admitted to the program. If you meet all the criteria at the point of putting in your application, you will be admitted without any conditions. And if you do not yet meet all the criteria, we will give you specific feedback on the things you still need to do before you can start the MERP program. For instance, if you are still in your last year of your bachelor education, we will admit you under the condition that you actually finish your bachelor degree and you send us the documentation once you have completed, and you send us a copy of the diploma. For other people, we sometimes have the requirement to attend the summer school on multivariate statistics if they have some basic knowledge of statistics, but not enough to enter the program and actually get started in September. And the advantage of this system of rolling admission is that you don't have to wait long before you get a reply from us. And we do encourage you to apply as early as possible. For every given year, the last deadline to apply to start in September is the 1st of April. So if you want to come and join us in September of this year, we would need to have your full application by the 1st of April of this year. So I think there was a lot of information from our side. And during the remainder of this webinar, we are here to answer your questions. And I'm already seeing that there are some questions on the screen. Just try to read them out loud because we didn't have a lot of time so far to go through them. So I see that there's one question on what's the ratio of sociology and social psychology and other social disciplines courses. I guess that question refers to what you had before entering MERM. If that at least is the question, how I understand it, that's not really an issue how much of the different disciplines you have, because any type of social science background qualifies you for MERM. So even if you studied only sociology and never took a social psychology course, you would be admissible, and the other way around as well. If this is about the course readings, we don't certainly have a guideline of how much we want in each course. I think it just turns out that we have a lot of readings from sociology and social psychology because this is the prevalent backgrounds of the teachers that we have. So they've been trained in those disciplines and they know those literatures well. And this is what their research is about. And well, for a lot of courses, we also regularly update the literature. So the literature that I use in my course this year is already a bit different than last year. And we always try to have some diverse readings, and it will depend on the course which other disciplines will be covered and how much of that. But would you say that 70% sociology and social psychology, 30% others is a fair representation?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, the main focus is sociology and social psychology, and then some papers from other disciplines or some lectures sometimes, yeah.
But as I said, it's really also up to the teachers to change that. So it could also be a different ratio the different years, and we don't have any clear guidelines on that. There is one question asking, is there room for other methods apart from statistical research? Well, the answer is yes and no. The no part of the answer means that we don't really actively teach non-quantitative methods of conducting social scientific research. So the courses that we offer, they are only on quantitative methods, and that's why having background knowledge in quantitative research methods is important to be able to enter the program and follow it from day one. So if you never had any courses of methods and statistics, you're unlikely to be admitted to the program because you wouldn't be able to keep up in the first semester. Having said that, we've had quite some students throughout the years who are more interested in qualitative researchers, and we also have researchers in our research group who conduct qualitative researches and can supervise thesis using qualitative methods or mixed methods, so both qualitative and quantitative methods in their thesis. And because we don't offer specific methods courses in the specific qualitative methods that students want to use for their thesis, we then generally advise to use the elective course to take on additional coursework in a specific method, because of course the field of qualitative methods is also very, very broad. And we do expect our students, because it's a research master, to do high quality qualitative research. So we would then point you to courses that help you acquire the skills that you need for the qualitative research technique that you want to use for your thesis, and you can work on this during the thesis, but you will not on a routine basis offer the skills in qualitative research methods in the program. Oh, oops, there was a question for Lena which just disappeared. Oh, there it is. And it was whether you found your internship position yourself.
Yeah. No, I actually didn't completely find it myself. One of my professors made the contact for me, so she established the connection between me and the professor because she knew him from research, I think, and that way we got in contact, and yeah, so that was really helpful. So if you really want to do research internship, it's also really nice, I think, that the professors can help you with pointing you towards different countries, different professors, directions, and then she gave me a list of different professors, and I looked a bit through what they're doing as a research, and I saw that I really found one in Cyprus especially interested, and then yeah, that's how it worked.
No. I've also in the past, I was the coordinator of this elective course, and we've really seen a lot of different variants. So there's a lot of students who find their own internships because they already know specific organizations or fields where they're interested in working in, and they're just looking for internship opportunities. So whenever they find something, they would contact the coordinator and say, well, is this suitable for an elective? And then what we look at is the type of task that are expected from the intern, because of course we don't want our students to just make coffee and this kind of things for weeks on end. But if it's on a level that is similar to what people, if they graduated, would do in the organization, it would be suitable for the elective course. And that could also be a more applied task. And of course, we can't know all the organizations in the world. So if you know something where you want to work and you bring it to us, you have a good chance of getting this acknowledged for your elective course. But the other way also happens that students contact us, say, well, I want to work in this country or on that topic. Do you know somebody who's working on that? And then we can draw on our international network to connect our students with researchers in the field. So these things both happen for the internships. And we also offer regularly internship positions at our own research group, where you would already know the supervisors. Okay, I see another question on requests for the letter of recommendation. Well, we don't have any specific requests. I think based on what I said about what we find important in the prospective students, so the motivation for the topic and for becoming a researcher, or at least interest in getting a high quality knowledge of research skills. That's something that would be good to address. So if you can get a letter of recommendation from somebody who, for instance, supervised your thesis or some other research activity and really can say something about research skill that you have, that would be a big plus for us. But also somebody else who knows you from coursework, knows that you're performing well or that you have a keen interest in the topics. Or we also get quite some applications from people who did their bachelor a while ago and have now professional experience working in the field of organizations working with migrants or immigrant integration. And those types of recommendations would also be helpful, but you would always have to meet the criteria of having a background in social sciences, both in the content and the methodology. So if that's not already evident from the documents that you submit, then putting this in the letter of recommendation can be helpful. Let me see, the next question. Does this master specifically prepare you for a job as a researcher? Are there other possibilities as well? It's both, really. So we target students who want to become researchers, and these days in the Netherlands, because we have this distinction between the 2-year research master and the 1-year academic masters, it's really hard to find a research position, a PhD position, if you have not done a research master. So I always recommend students who are considering maybe they want to later do a research, become a researcher, to enroll in a research master and not in a 1-year master. But at the same time, doesn't mean that you have to become a researcher and there's no other options. But you're super well prepared to become a researcher, so that's certainly a very obvious next step. But we've also seen a lot of other types of companies who are interested in our graduates, and there's really we also monitor, we keep in touch with our alumni. We try to see where they've landed within a short time. We have curriculum surveys and alumni surveys for that purpose. And there's really not any substantial unemployment among our graduates. What we actually often see is that after the 2 years of MERM, because we have a lot of, we have very intensive practice with doing research, a lot of students say, well, like, now I can do it and I want to do something else. I want to see some applied context, and then they start working in organizations. But then after a few years, they say like, oh, actually the research was quite nice. And then they still start a PhD, and of course they still have very good credentials to start that. So that share of people entering the PhD is actually only increasing the more years are passing after graduation.
Yes, so I think there's another question on the type of examination That's commonly with the theoretical courses. So if it's, for example, exams, papers, or presentations.
What's your impression? What do you most remember?
I most remember the statistics exams, I think, so for the 2 methods and statistics courses. And yeah, you do have to hand in weekly tasks, like small tests. And then I think we had 2 big tests for the statistics courses. And for the other theoretical courses, which are not methodological, it was mainly, I remember, presentations, papers, assignments, essays to hand in. So there we didn't really have, tests to take.
No. And we also strive, so we coordinate this between different course coordinators to not always use the same method of testing in the same period. So for instance, if there's one course where you have to write a research proposal as a large assignments, we make sure that the course that you have in parallel requires a different type of written assignment, so that we have some diversity in the types of assignments in grading that we have. I see a question on whether it's recommended to do this master's program if you want to work outside the field of research, and if there are courses that prepare students for work outside this area. Well, I think the elective course is the most immediate connection if you want to do something outside academia. So you could do a more applied internship, for instance, and see whether working in a certain more applied organization is what you value and how that works for you. And then you can have that internship counted as part of your coursework. So that's the most immediate connection. But then in some of the courses, we also have some more applied assignments. For instance, I'm teaching a course on immigrant integration, where the largest written assignment is a so-called integration report. And students really learn to write a report that's more, a bit more applied, a bit more for policymakers. So it's not about conducting your own independent research and writing a research article, but actually presenting information that comes from research in a more accessible way by making lots of graphs and writing about it a bit more accessible. So that's also something that hopefully helps you when you apply for jobs outside academia, or that a bit more in the applied direction. But the focus of the program is really in developing research skills and preparing for a career in research. Let's see. This question disappeared, and I think the question above we already covered. I also saw a question about whether there's a pre-master for this master, and that's actually not the case, because the pre-masters we offer at the faculty, they generally lead up to 1-year masters. And we don't have a 1-year master that's so closely matching the MERM program, but if you follow any pre-master at this university, you can become admitted to the MERM program if you meet the other criteria. I think we have to stop at this point. Our time is up. So thanks a lot for being with us today. If you have any questions that you did not get a chance of asking in a live chat or in the Q&A, please contact us. You can find my email and contact information on our master's website. You will also receive an email with the recording of today's webinar and a link to a brief survey. And we would really love it if you could take the time to complete the survey so that we know how we've been doing and whether this was any useful. So for now, I want to wish you a very good day, and I hope to see you again in September or some other time. Thanks.
Bye.